What can you learn from a multi-platinum Grammy-nominated producer session? Well, today, my friend, you and I are in for a special treat because we are going to take a deep dive into one said session from an extremely highly demanded LA producer who is just killing it and has worked with some absolutely incredible artists. So first off, the wonderful artist who was so gracious to let us use his session on his brand new single and gave me permission, and that is Keith Wallen. I got to give Keith a massive shout out because Keith is an incredible artist, an incredible writer, and has one of the best voices in rock, hands down. So please go check out Keith's new single, Strings, which we've got here today for you that he's given us permission. This just came out on Rise Records BMG, and go give Keith some spins on Spotify because, like I said, he didn't have to let us use this today, but he did because he's an awesome human and a great artist. So much love, Keith. Thank you so much. You're the best. Now, on the production side, Keith did his record with Kevin Thrasher. And Kevin, if you're not familiar, I will drop a link to some of his credits below. But Kevin is an absolute heavy hitter. Like I said, he is multi-platinum and Grammy nominated and just absolutely one of the most in-demand producers in the rock and pop punk scene right now in LA, and is just killing it. Definitely my favorite producer to mix for. So when you take a genius like Kevin and you take a brilliant, gifted artist like Keith and you put them together and then you hire a fool like me to mix it, and this is what you get here today. In front of me, I have the mixing session here from this song. And you can see that there's 177 tracks in this session of Fury. We're not here to talk about mixing today or go through a mix. If you want to learn how to mix, you can watch me mix or watch a lot of other mixers mix at nailthemix.com. Check that out. Today, we're just going to talk about the production here and dive in to see what separates the top tier from everybody else. Pay attention and let's see what we notice.
There's still blood in this big heart of my tongue.
What a hook, what a voice. I love Keith's voice. He's just so sick. The first thing that stands out to me from a production point, without even getting into the sheer level of tracks, but just like a very high level, is just how badass is this hook. I mean, what a great chorus. It is so good.
There's still blood in this big heart of my tongue, still cuts with passion.
So you'll notice right away by just listening to the mix that despite there being over 170 tracks in this song, like your ear and attention is focused on one thing, and that is Keith's voice. And the way this song is produced is completely built around that one thing. So I think that's the first thing that stands out to me, is just an absolute focus on highlighting what matters. And that is the incredible artist. One thing that's big with Kevin's productions is different scene changes of drum sounds at different parts of the song, which I think is a cool production trick because a lot of people, it's just like you have one drum sound through the entire song. Whereas like in a Thrasher production, Kevin goes in, every part of the song changes the vibe in the scene, and it helps create a dynamic in the song and the production that makes the song more exciting to listen to. Now, what's cool is if you listen to the size of this drum room, this is not a massive room. Like, this is something where you could set up drum mics in your own place, for example, like in your kitchen or your living room, and you could get a sizable ambience like this. It's a great treated room, but it is not some big colossal studio. Now, I've added some, some samples and stuff like Drumforge soap and some things to make things sound a little bit larger than life because it's active rock and, that's just how I mix. That's what that sounds like. Again, nothing crazy, but it's just real drums, a couple of samples, blended, probably like 50-50 in there. Now, what's cool here is that when we go to the first verse, the scene changes on the drums. So listen to the tonal shift in the drums here. So Kevin's gone from like a big slam and rock drum intro that hits really hard on the radio and is super like competitive with what's out, all the way down until like, a very raw kind of sounding drum with some like breakbeat kind of background stuff, and some programming. And it's a total scene shift. And you can see here that the actual main drums drop out, but we have a completely different recording that's engineered slightly different. So listen to it on the mix.
I don't need a bad religion. to practice what they preach in church. I don't need apology.
You can see how that scene change is a total weapon in dynamics. Like the whole song comes in, you know, we have this kind of build-up intro where we're dropping the hook and getting the listener's attention and mentioning the catchiest part of the song, just enough to get their attention. Then we hit them real hard. Then he brings it down into the verse and creates a dynamic. So when the chorus, you know, it has a place to grow, and then the chorus explodes.
Gotta keep my word. I bet you like the.
So we introduce guitar. We introduce bass. We introduce rock drums, right? It's not full on heavy like the part before, but you can see. So we got a little bit of drums. Again, a different vibe. I've actually got a different kick drum sample trigger here on this thing, so it hits even harder on the chorus. So again, the chorus needs to explode. It needs to be the hardest part of the song. And when it opens up, listen to this transition.
I'm ready to lay down and die. There's still blood in this thing.
Now we're back to really hard rock drums. So we've got several different parts of this song, but you can see the drum scenes keep changing. Now compare that here to verse 1.
To practice what they preach in church.
More electronic, verse 2.
Create the poison just to sell love.
Rocking a little bit harder. It's a little bit more ambient. It's a different vibe. Like I said, the big thing here, the big takeaway from me that you can do at home is you can try different scene changes with your drums at different parts of the song to kind of keep things more interesting for the listener. It's so cool to see the seamless blending of genres. And that's one thing I think that separates a brilliant, great producer from the pack is their ability to seamlessly take any type of sound or instrument, no matter the genre, and make like a masterful song out of it that's appropriate for an artist. As you'll notice with the drums, there's a lot of scene changes in this from electronic bass as well as actual printed bass. In the beginning of the song, you have nothing, right? It's a build. And if it came in with some big bass, this part wouldn't hit as hard. All of a sudden you just get throttled with bass in the mix. Like it just sounds big. Big, fat, deep bass. We've got an over the top bass. Yeah, that just adds a little bit of grit, but it's, you know, it's not like metal band grit, but it's rock grit. Now we have a DI. And you can see how each one of those bass parts just adds something that it basically accumulates to this sound. Again, that's only the bass sound for one section of the song, and that's what kind of makes this cool. And then he's got this. He's got some sub bass in there. Scene change here into verse 1.
Practice what they preach in church.
Got no bass going on. We added bass here in the pre-chorus here.
I bet you like the kid.
There's a little bit of a thinner bass sound than it was here, which is thicker. If you've got a sub, you'll hear the difference. Go to the chorus. It's a little bit subbier, and you're bringing in this serum synth again here. If you're probably noticing a theme by now, you know, the song graduates, it changes, it morphs, and it keeps the listener's interest as always adding something new, something familiar, but something fresh, right? Keith has got some pretty cool guitar parts. Keith loves to jam guitar, and he's really good at it. Amazing sound. I think they recorded that like on a Telefunken 251. Such a beautiful acoustic sound. So again, you're just hitting the root chords there. That's pretty unique and interesting. And then we've got a distortion guitar. And there's this lead here. Something that I love is that Kevin and Keith, they actually committed all of their effects. And this is something I think great productions have, is that the producer is not leaving the mixer to guess what it should sound like. Like, hey, I want this lead guitar, and can you put like a slap on it and a tight reverb? They're just like, here's a guitar sound. Mix it. You know, I love that. In this intro here, we've got all these rocking guitars, and then you'll notice here we get to verse 1, and what happens? Everything drops. To come into the pre-chorus,
I bet you like the kid.
we can call it the second half of verse 1, and we introduce a new element, which is this rotary guitar.
I bet you like the cage. It makes
So that first chord kind of catches your attention, then it kind of sets out of the way and highlights the vocal. You know, it's like, hey, new element, all right, get out of the way and bring the vocalist up. So again, it's all in the production, and the production is great. The mix comes together. Bass, and just like the drums, guess what? You have guitar scene changes. Each section of the song is a scene change. And then when this comes back in, we're going to keep this whole stack going, but he's going to bring in this lead again. Now, let's head over to the bridge here. There's another scene change just because we haven't gotten to this yet.
I bet you like the cage. It makes you feel so safe.
So here they cut all that stuff out, and it just boosts up the rhythm guitars here. As you can see, there was an automation move in the mix, and it just rocks out. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing crazy going on. It's just a pair of rhythm guitars, no buzz saw guitars. The bass is a lot simpler. We drop out all the electronics. You see the bridge. This is kind of like a laid back bridge. It kind of comes back. It just rocks, you know, a good solid rock part. And then there's another part coming here at the end of this bridge that transitions back into the chorus.
There's still blood in this beating heart of my tongue.
Another scene change. In this case, we remove all the drums, basses, and everything else. And what does the producer use? Boom. Brings back in the acoustic guitars. It allows you to just focus on the vocal, and then allows you to really drive home that last chorus. So now in the very last chorus, of course, we have to have another scene change because it's got to be the biggest. So what have they done? They've come in and they've added yet another layer of guitars. The actual mix, I have those buzzsaw guitars, really, really quiet. Right now, for whatever reason, the way I've got this balanced out here for YouTube, it's totally crushing. Your brain just senses that something new kind of came in there and it feels more exciting, but you really don't know what it is unless you're maybe sitting there listening on a good hi-fi system or a good pair of headphones and taking the time to really dig in. Look at all of these synths. Let me just click around here for a couple seconds. There's a lot of stuff going on in this song that I bet you didn't know was in this song. You can notice by the grid, we have different scene changes. Here's the intro, right? Here's the jam part, different scene changes in the synths, right? Here is the verse. We've got a totally different layout than, you know, like the pre or the second half of the verse, and then the chorus. And so the song has different scene changes in the production and, you know, like the bridge, right? Different combination of elements. New things are constantly coming in to get your attention, but nothing is obtrusive or in the way. Again, a hallmark of a great producer. A lot of more amateur productions that I've mixed in my career, when people throw in a lot of post-production stuff like this, like synths, risers, booms, they cram a lot of stuff in there just to put stuff in there. All right, so we've got that lead guitar, right? Remember from up here? Check it out. On a microcorg. If you listen to it in the mix, got that lead that's kind of carrying the melody there with that little vocal hook in support as like a counter melody. And that's kind of what your ear focuses on. So there's some sub drops. You got a tambourine with an exclamation mark because the song cannot be a banger without a tambourine fact. You got some ticks. There's that hip hop influence stuff I was talking about. And then some of these other synths are kind of just lingering, but you'll notice that I actually dropped one out in the mix because I thought it was conflicting. But some of these things kind of just in there to fill space. You know, they're not super loud, but it just makes everything sound bigger. We've dropped out all of the band stuff, right? Look at this production. It's totally empty, except we have this drum scene change. Guess what? We're going to fill it up with production. So we've got some arpeggios. See, there's a lot of bass elements. There's nothing crazy going on. And when you add it all together, here's what it sounds like.
I don't need a bad religion to practice what
Gives it a very like electronic EDM kind of feel.
I bet you like the cage.
They keep the synth going here. So you see how we've gone from electronic to a little bit more rock, leaning slightly electronic, and now we hit the chorus. And what do we got on the chorus? Just a little bit of that kind of counter melody thing that was in there in the intro. It's in there for more size, and then he's got a tambourine. Because like I said, percussion is life. Because they've chosen to bring the rotary guitar in right away, bring the bass in right away, and bring back rock drums with just a little bit of the loop, you'll see that only the bass synths are in here, and it's a little bit less dense. We don't have like all these extra instrument parts and ticks and things like that were in verse 1. Again, it helps graduate it and makes second verse a little bit more exciting to listen to than the first verse, and a little bit more interesting. Okay, let's take a look here at the bridge of the production. This is the rock out part. We've overlaid some synths. So we keep that theme going here. And then he's got this new microcorg. And that's just a counter melody to kind of be in there behind the vocal, again, to support it and just totally change the scene and vibe in the song. What happens on the next section? Just acoustic guitars. And then at the very end here, we've got some really crazy intense synths on like the very outro of the ending of the chorus. You can see how the song just keeps growing, keeps changing scenes, keeps moving forward. As you can see, there's a lot of vocal production tracks here. A great producer prints all their vocal effects and things that they want the vocal to sound like. They don't sit here and say, you know, throw a delay. I want this on the vocal here mixer, and I want that over there. And, you know, they say, here's what it sounds like. Here's a production mix the song. Kevin has taken the time to print all of his vocal effects and any special pitched vocals, throws, anything else he thinks he wants in the song. And him and Keith have sat down and they figured out all of this stuff before it ever gets brought up on my console over here. Just to kind of start tuning your ear for the big chorus that's going to come, like right out of the gate. Because again, if you go to radio, you've got 13 seconds, arguably 9, to catch a listener's attention. So in good songwriting and producing, you know, getting right to the most important part of the song and just immediately hitting them with some vocal or something that just isn't like a jam, you know what I mean? It's not your typical intro, is always a good thing. Now, I consolidated these here when I was mixing, as you see, just to make it a little easier so I could put them on a pair of console channels. So that's kind of a cool supporting part to that counter melody. There's a pitch vocal here that's in. That sounds so wild. Again, that's the kind of ear candy where it's like, in the mix, it's there. If you hit mute, you'd be like, something's missing, you know? First verse here, you've got just a single vocal here. Here's Keith singing.
I don't need a bad religion. I don't need a politician.
And then you can see behind Keith here, there's all these cool like echo effects and things that they did.
Bad religion. In church. Politician. Keep my word. I don't need a bad religion to practice what they preach in church. I don't need a politician to teach me how to keep my word.
We've got all these different effects and throws. Suddenly we get to the second half of this verse, or the pre-chorus, whatever you want to call it. And now we bring back the ahs from the intro of the song, and we add some harmonies here.
I bet you like the cage. It makes you feel so safe. You accept your fate. I'm not ready to lay down and die. There's still blood in this.
This type of production is just a very, very well thought out, intricate puzzle.
I bet you like the cage. It makes you feel so safe. You accept your fate. I'm not ready to lay down and die.
So I've got this like cool chorusy doubly effect here to kind of just make it sound weird and interesting. And then like the harmony comes in and then boom, it rips the chorus. And then we have this massive stacks.
There's still blood in this beating heart, and my tongue still cuts switchblade sharp. Living isn't living if I can't live free. You won't tie your strings on me.
What a voice.
There's still blood in this beating.
Then there's a low harmony.
Blood in this beating heart.
All right, high harmony, I can't read. We have two more harmonies here.
Blood in this beating heart, and my tongue.
Got some lows, right? So you've got this thick vocal stack, and then there's this vocoder. And again, in the actual mix, this stuff is buried. None of this stuff is balanced right now because it's not going into a board.
Blood in this beating heart, and my tongue.
You can hear some pretty cool stuff. And when you listen to all that stacked into the mix at the correct levels, here's what it sounds like. Like you can't hear this pitched vocal part that's in there, but you can feel that low octave and just the way that it comes in and kind of builds up with itself. It just adds this nice, rich bottom end resonance to the voice. Listen to this. The first verse was kind of just like a single vocal. Now we've got a harmony here and we've got some extra stuff.
I don't need a pill to fix me. Create the poison just to sell the cure. I don't need a needle in me. No one's gonna win that war. Still blood in this beating heart, my tongue.
Now we've got a bridge here. It's crazy. I love it.
I bet you like the cage. It makes you feel so safe. You accept your fate. I'm not ready to lay down and die. It's still blood.
All right, so then we're dropping out here to a mono vocal.
It's still blood in this beating heart, and my tongue still cuts
Now you notice they changed the melody a little bit here. Something you've heard, it's kind of familiar, but it's a little bit different. in the end, it's just this vocoder and Keith's main vocal, some effects, and nothing else. Everything drops out. All right, so that is inside the session of Kevin Thrasher and the song Strings by Keith Wallen. Like I said, please go give Keith some streams here on Spotify. And thank you again, Keith, for being so awesome, and Kevin for allowing me guys to go in here and open this up so other people can learn from this production and your absolute brilliance and talent. If you like this type of content, please give me a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm very curious to hear your takeaways from this session and what you learned. Please drop the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to learn how to mix music, head over to nailthemix.com. I'll see you soon.